Hello, and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Linda, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube, live or later, and invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes the Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that on our website at uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair. And now, here's Reverend Cheryl.
Thank you, Linda, and welcome, everyone who is with me right now in the Zoom room, all of you watching on YouTube, whether you're watching now or later. I appreciate you showing up because your energy is what makes Unity of Fredericksburg such a wonderful place to be. So our broadcast date today is Sunday, June 7th. It's the first Sunday of June. So a little bit about June. June gets its name from the Roman goddess Juno, the goddess of youth and protection. Juno's name means rejuvenate and to aid. Overall, Juno's attributes include energy, youthfulness, and creative power. The month of June is also a great time for improving relationships. So see if you can put that to work in your life. June is also Pride Month. That is when we honor and celebrate our LGBTQIA plus loved ones. So June was chosen for Pride Month to honor the Stonewall Uprising of 1969 in New York City, which was a pivotal moment that helped spark the modern gay rights movement. And here's a quote relating to Pride Month from President Barack Obama. When all Americans are treated as equal, no matter who they are or whom they love, we are all more free. So, here in the month of June at Unity of Fredericksburg, our focus is on wholeness, on being whole. And I've got a quote here from Reverend Jim Blake, who is the CEO of Unity World Headquarters. Wholeness is the ability to see what we like in ourselves, as well as those things we consider imperfect, and embrace them as one beautiful work in progress. Seeing ourselves whole means loving ourselves fully, including those things we perceive to be flaws. This doesn't mean we won't strive for growth or improvement, but rather, as we are doing so, we accept and love ourselves as we are and where we are right now. So, the path that we follow through the year at Unity of Fredericksburg comes out of an annual discernment process that we practice at the end of the calendar year. And sometimes in those conversations, there are specific requests. And one request for 2026 was for a series of talks based on the 1989 book, The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav. So here we go today with part one of 3 talks based on the seat of the soul. So this book became known worldwide when Oprah Winfrey read the book, did as she often did, gave copies to all of her staff and her friends, and asked her producers to find Gary Zukav and invite him as a guest on her daytime TV show. And that happened for the first time in 1998. So the book was published in 89. And Gary Zukav was first a guest on Oprah's show in 1998. And as Gary Zukav describes in The Seed of the Soul, when Oprah called to invite him to be on the show, he was kind of living in a mountain, in seclusion, because he was writing and reflecting and meditating. He didn't own a TV. He didn't even know who Oprah was when she called to invite him. And over the years, Gary Zukav was a guest on her show 36 times, whatever version of show she was doing. And I'm sure they're probably still in touch. According to Gary Zukav's website, which for those of you who want to take a look at that, that is seatofthesoul.com. Gary Zukav is the author of a dozen books, 4 of which were New York Times bestsellers. And here's a little bit from the website about Gary. For years, Gary Zukav has conveyed the most complex insights in language all can understand. Over and over, he challenges us to see the depth of our potential in the world and act on that awareness. His gentle presence, humor, and wisdom have inspired millions to realize their soul's greatest potential. So, we will not be able in 3 talks to cover all of the topics in this book. So I am hoping that the topics that I choose to focus on will feel satisfying for you. I will also take some steps to tie that together with Unity teachings. And I encourage you to read the book on your own so that you can harvest whatever good things there are for you in particular. So as we get started, you all know how I am about words. So I want to start off by talking about this word soul, um, and how it's used and what it means, because it's one of those words kind of like God that each one of us would probably have a slightly different definition of our understanding of that word. So Gary Zukav uses the word soul to name the spiritual dimension of humanity. And he uses the word personality to name the physical kind of ego level. So he says soul and personality. You all who have, been following this for a while will have noticed that I tend to use the terms divine nature and human nature. And Gary Zukav kind of defines the soul briefly, saying your soul is that part of you that is immortal. Now, for students of Unity, I do want to point out that Charles and Myrtle Fillmore use the word soul in a different way than Gary Zukav does. So for those of you who are students of Unity, I just want you to be clear about how the Fillmores used it versus how Gary Zukav uses it. So Charles Fillmore used the term soul to describe human consciousness, the changing, growing, unfolding aspect of us. So that active level of consciousness where we're learning new things and working on doing better in our lives. Myrtle Fillmore, who often talked in terms of the threefold nature of humanity, referred to that threefold nature as spirit, soul, and body. So one of the things that she said in Myrtle Fillmore's healing letters, whatever has been impressed upon our soul will work out in our body and affairs. So they kind of, if you think of that, that kind of vertical reference of body, and the Fillmores would say soul and spirit. Um, uh, that's different than how Gary Zukav presents it. And it really is different than the common usage that most of us have for that word today, where soul is the word we use for our divine nature, for that level of spirit and where we exist as spirit. So just wanted to clarify all of that. Our topics for today at the beginning of the book, Seed of the Soul, are evolution, karma, and reverence. So, are you ready? Let's get going. There was lots of introduction here today. So, in the first chapter, Gary Zukav presents a model of evolution. Now, he's not talking about the process of physical evolution that many of us learned in school. He's not talking about that. Let me read to you what he is saying here. Here he says, we are evolving from five sensory humans into multi-sensory humans. Our five senses together form a single sensory system that is designed to perceive physical reality. The perceptions of a multisensory human extend beyond physical reality to the larger dynamical systems of which our physical reality is a part. So, we're talking here about spiritual evolution. And this process of spiritual evolution is the process by which we become truly aware of our wholeness, of our inherent divinity, of our soul. Now, Gary Zukav does take the time to point out the many ways in which human societies still reflect the power dynamics of physical evolution. If you think of that mindset of survival of the fittest, that energy still shows up across human civilizations. And so he's very aware of that. And he also shows us in the book the many ways in which the arc of spiritual evolution will lead us to different ways to perceive and evaluate the experiences that we have in our lives. So, as humanity evolves from being personality based to soul focused, we become more and more aware of the metaphysical, that aspect of being that is beyond the physical, the non physical aspects of our being. So let's see what he has to say about that. I have so many tabs in my book today to share with you. Here we go. Your soul is a positive, purposeful force at the core of your being. It is that part of you that loves without restriction and accepts without judgment. Let me say that again. Loves without restriction and accepts without judgment. So in this evolutionary process, spiritual process, the soul chooses to incarnate in physical form. And Zukav shares that the soul chooses a personality and a personality in a set of human conditions through which that soul can learn and grow and heal. Now, there is an assumed premise here that Zukav actually does not discuss at length, but there is an assumed premise that this process of incarnation takes place through multiple physical lifetimes. So the soul continues to show up and practice to learn and grow and heal. So this, of course, would be reincarnation. Now, as I said, he doesn't discuss reincarnation at length. It is an assumed premise in the book. So you can decide how comfortable you are with that. I have heard discussions in the past amongst Unity leaders about whether or not Unity founders believed in reincarnation or didn't. The Fillmores certainly spent lots of time studying Eastern religions. They had an awareness of it. One thing I can say for sure is they didn't anywhere say, no, that doesn't exist. And they didn't discuss it at length either. So you can decide how you feel about that. But this, as I said, this is an assumed premise of this book. And what I would like for you to focus on right now in this moment, just backing up a little bit, is let's just take a moment and reflect on Gary Zukav's assertion that every aspect of your life is something that your soul has chosen as an opportunity to learn and grow and heal. So, how you are showing up in this physical body, whether you're male, female, or you identify otherwise, your relationships, your connections, the family of origin, that all of these things are things your soul has chosen to learn and heal and grow. So take a deep breath with that, my friends. And let's just take a moment to dwell in a space of gratitude. Gratitude for this process of the soul showing up and its yearning for healing and coming into a perfect state of love, and that we all have the opportunity to be in that in this life. All right, so moving on. That was stuff from the first chapter, so soul and evolution. The second chapter of the Seed of the Soul is called karma. Now, for many of us, we have a loose definition of karma that may have picked up from lots of different places. Some of us may have actually spent time studying Eastern religions, which is where the concept of karma was most fully developed historically. Many of us will have an understanding of karma, and Zukav talks about this. We'll have an understanding based on how things go in the physical world. So, it like karma is an external force of judgment that's going to get you if you don't behave, right? A lot of us have that understanding kind of from, the understanding of being ego, personality based humans. But this concept of karma shows up as a theme through almost all spiritual teaching. So I've got a couple of examples here for you. So from Hebrew scripture, and by that I mean the Old Testament, Proverbs 26:27, whoever digs a pit will fall into it. Christian scripture, so New Testament, Matthew 7:2, the measure you give will be the measure you get. From the Quran, 99 verses 7 through 8, whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it, and whoever does an atom's weight of evil will see it. And here in New Thought, Unity from Charles Fillmore in Keep a True Lent. Thoughts are seeds that, when dropped into the subconscious, germinate and bring forth after their kind. And that, my friends, is something you may have heard of. You've heard me talk about it in Unity. It's called the law of mind action. All of those kind of reflect this energy of karma. I like how Gary Zukav describes it when he says karma serves humanity as an impersonal and universal teacher of responsibility. I like that one. Um, and let me see, I'm going to find a quote from the book for you, continuing here about karma. In order to become whole, the soul must balance its energy. It must experience the effects it has caused. Every experience and every interaction provides you with an opportunity to look from the point of view of your soul or from the point of view of your personality. So all of this reminds us that the energy that we send out into the world occurs on many levels. It occurs at the level of thought, in the words that we speak, in the actions that we take, not just in the actions, but on these other levels. And this places the responsibility, since Gary Zukav calls karma that impersonal and universal teacher of responsibility. It places the responsibility where we often talk about it on Sunday morning, right here at the level of your consciousness. And Gary Zukav spends quite a bit of time talking about our judgments, the judgments that we hold as thoughts and beliefs, feelings and attitudes. That is a part of the energy that gets us engaged with a loop of karma. So even when we're thinking judgy thoughts and we're thinking of ourselves as doing a great job for not having that come out our mouths, it still is existing in energy in your thoughts, not just out there in action. So let's see what he has to say about this. Get my glasses again. If we are to engage the viewpoint of the soul, we must cease from judging even those events that appear to be unfathomable. And then he lists the kind of horrible things that we see in the world that we judge as bad. Continuing here, we do not know what is being healed in these sufferings or the details of the energetic circumstance that is coming into balance. So, part of what he challenges us to do, friends, is even in the face of our own personal challenges or the things that we see in the world that are we would see as injustice and things like that, that we continue to practice suspending judgment. What an opportunity that is. That may settle with you or it may stir up things with you. So take a deep breath right here and now with me. Let us take a moment to just dwell in a space of forgiveness for ourselves, knowing that each and every one of us does have thoughts that are judgment, and that we are grateful for this ongoing opportunity to heal, and release judgment so that we can move on in this process of spiritual evolution. All right, we're now at chapter 3, and Gary Zukav presents an essential step in this path of spiritual evolution. He calls it reverence. So, what does he mean when he says reverence? Let's see. Reverence is engaging in a form and a depth of contact with life that is well beyond the shell of form and into essence. Reverence is contact with the essence of each thing and person and plant and bird and animal. It is contact with the interior of beingness. So, as Gary Zukav describes it, he says, as humanity learns to become truly reverent, we will honor all forms of life and life cycles. We will learn to release all patterns of human society that do not honor humanity. We'll learn to release cruelty and violence, domination, slavery, all these things that we know exist out there in the outer world. And that humanity will learn to embrace the divinity of all living beings. And yes, truly learn to embrace the energy and the divinity of the earth itself. Something that we pray about every single week. So take another deep breath here, my friends. Let us dwell in a space of gratitude for all living beings, all of humanity, all of the animal and plant world and the earth itself and beyond the earth. So much to be grateful for. Now, there's lots for us to cover this month. A lot of opportunity here to wrap things up. This process of evolution presented by Gary Zukav from five sensory based humans to multi-sensory awareness. It takes time, right? It takes time. And if we want to consciously participate, it takes persistence, right? We all know we have so much to learn. Let's hear from him one more time here. The decision to approach life with reverence means acting and thinking as a spiritual person in a world that does not recognize spirit. And it means moving consciously toward the perceptions of the multisensory human. So, my question for you right now is, are you game? Huh? This is something that we practice every week here at Unity. And so I invite you to keep showing up and invite other people to keep showing up and show up with spirit first through all aspects of your life. This is something that takes attention, intention, practice. Keep doing the work. Choose your words and actions based on an unfailing faith in the wholeness at the core of your being, your soul, no matter how things appear. We can do it. So let's keep practicing together, shall we? All right, we are going to move into our time of meditation now. So I invite you to take a deep breath again. And if you wish, you can allow your outer eyes to drift closed or just soften your gaze, whatever is comfortable for you. As we prepare our meditation space, I'm going to read one more time, and I'm going to read from the foreword to the first edition of The Seed of the Soul from Gary Zukav. We are in a time of deep change. We will move through this change more easily if we are able to see the road upon which we are traveling, our destination, and what it is that is in motion. I offer this book as a window through which I have come to see life. I offer this window to you, but I do not say that it is necessary that you accept it. There are so many ways to wisdom and to the heart. This is our greatest richness, the one that gives me the most joy. We have much to do together. Let us do it in wisdom and love and joy. Let us make this the human experience. So take that, my friends, and let us move into a time in the stillness together right now. As we begin to bring our awareness back to the here and now, back to this sacred moment, back to the body in the seat, noticing the breath in the body. Let me share a few affirmations that line up with these teachings from the seat of the soul. I trust that my soul is guiding me into deeper wisdom, clarity, and truth. I make choices based on love, knowing that every choice shapes the path of my soul. I meet every living being and every moment with reverence. And one more affirmation, my friends, and this one I'll invite you to repeat after me at home. I recognize the sacred presence of the soul in all life. Say it with me. I recognize the sacred presence of the soul in all life. Let's say it one more time, okay? I recognize the sacred presence of the soul in all life. Yes, indeed. So thank you so much for being here today. And I am now going to hand it over to our friend Linda.
Thank you, Reverend Cheryl. And thank you for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation, and support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.